Welcome to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. This is Will Crozier.
And I'm Nikki Westcombe. We are the founders of Nexus Performance. Joining us on this wild ride is our heavyweight coaching team, ready to unleash their expertise to solve any problems in your journey to getting strong and jacked.
Through our real-world experience, we hope to break things down in a digestible, applicable, and entertaining way.
So pump up the volume and let's get into this.
Yeah, my fucking Gmail is like, I use Google Photos for JMac to upload like my pictures, and for some reason the other day it like randomly logged into my Nexus email.
Yep.
And backed up every photo and video. I've never set up backup on it, but it backed up every photo and video I've ever made.
That's their way.
And now my drive is full, and it says if I clear it, it will delete my iCloud. Which is where I've got it all backed up to. But for some reason, Google has decided to take them and will clear them from both.
It's trying to force you into buying the upgrade.
Yeah, and it's like you're not going to be able to receive emails or upload any documents to Google, which is the one I will use for work.
Yeah.
They're like literally making me, they're forcing me to buy the storage, even though I'm already paying for iCloud storage.
Yeah.
Which is why I use iCloud. I don't know why the fuck Google's taking it.
Big cloud. Big cloud's coming for you. Making you to spend that $5 a year or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah. That's fucking annoying. I already pay $15 or $16 a month for fucking iCloud storage. I'm not paying more for fucking... They're dogs. I'm gonna have to fight them.
I can see the lawsuit now. Google versus Josh. Just, they're 40 lawyers versus you. You just walk up to the stand. Well, this.
You're all fucking dogs. Your Honor, fuck these guys.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll stand up. Yeah, they made me do it, I swear.
They're $1 trillion company, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I got to fight for the little guy.
Yeah.
Then they'll make a movie about me in years to come.
Well,
probably not.
Pretty short movie.
Yeah.
Unless you win somehow.
Josh was never seen again.
Yeah, the end.
Disappeared.
Oh, big cloud.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, I never even turned it on. I never even logged into Google Photos through my Nexus account. It just randomly decided to start syncing them.
They're all linked now. Yeah, they're all linked. It's fucked.
But I already pay for iCloud. And they're going to delete it from my iCloud, which is a completely different service. I'm going to
try and get Apple and Google to fight each other. That's what you want.
Yeah, Apple scumbags. No, Apple are the good guys for me at the moment, but fuck Google.
well,
that's not the topic, but anyway.
But it is important.
It's very important.
Very important political issue. Today, officially we're talking about bench press and bench press issues. In the past, we've done squat issues, we've done deadlift issues, and bench press is another beast. Obviously, it is just the third lift if you're in powerlifting, but it is, in my opinion, quite a different lift to the other two for quite a few reasons. The most obvious one is like lower body, upper body, or whatever like that. But in my opinion, the way my brain goes when coming into this conversation is like most of the technical issues that we see on squatting and deadlifting come from in a very simplified way from balance, from being on your toes, from being on your heels. If we think about, if I jump my head up in my deadlift like I do, or in a squat I try and extend my back, or I do funky stuff, my hips raise up in my squat or my deadlift, it's all due to your body trying to find balance because you're standing up. You're standing up on your feet, or you're trying to stand up in the deadlift. So yes. But there's a balance factor. Bench press, very different because you're laying down. There's no bracing, kinda, unless you want to call it, but like no bracing in the traditional sense that we will teach it in a squat and a deadlift. It's we're not trying to balance. We're just like locking ourselves into this fucking pad and using it for balance, which allows us to get away with things that just realistically don't really work in real life and don't like our shoulders don't really move like that. But it's fine because we've got this fucking bench press, So it's unique in that way, and that's how I always try and that's where my brain goes when it comes to bench press and all these bench press issues. That it's different for that reason in particular.
Well, I feel like it's the one that can be most leveraged. Like you see, obviously they implemented the bench rule in IPF because people were absolutely taking the piss, and you got these like 40-kilo females who can contortion themselves into
but I
tight, ridiculous position that they're
I
moving the
oppose
bar
the
a
internet on
centimeter.
that because
I don't care. I don't care how you move the bar. If you move it within the rules, I mean, now that the rules are changed, it's not necessarily the rules, but
no, well, you got two sides of the argument. You got the people who are like, yeah, IBF, good job, guys. We've made it more bench pressy. We made it more fair for the layman who can't extend his back and be in a
but
in
what
that
world
position.
champions are the same as every other person?
Yeah, but my opinion, like my thing is, if these people were like, if the rest of if we looked at a world record sheet for bench press, or whatever, and or for powerlifting for totals, and it was like, all the people who can't arch crazy are just losing, and then you've got to step up, and there's all these the top 10 people are just the people who can arch crazy, and they've getting a crazy big advantage from it. I would be like, then I would probably have something to say. I'd probably be like, okay, like we need to figure this out so it can be a little bit fairer, I guess. Fair is probably the wrong word, but it can be, we can balance it a little bit. But the real thing is, like, these people who get in those positions aren't like they're not.
Yeah, they're not well balanced across SBD.
Yeah. They're just getting into a crazy position on that, and they're usually specialists in that, and they're not like dominating competitions, and you're fucking lifting 10% below the second place, or in the world, like from a total. So I just don't see it as an issue. I'm just like, I don't care.
There's not too many people winning comps on their bench.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. So anyway, that's my short sidestep. But I just hate when that's like the people just complain about the bench press and then they don't realize that it's like
I like we rip straight into it.
Yeah,
tearing in.
Just I don't care for the rule.
Yeah, I don't give anything about. I don't care about it either. To be fair, I just saw it come in and I was like, oh, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
No, it caused a lot of uproar, and then I don't think I've seen a single thing about it since.
Before we actually go into continue your part on bench different for you or whatever that you can leverage, or was that you good with that?
No, it was just the contortion thing.
Yeah,
like
the
you
leverage
see these
thing.
bench specialists that's like,
you would never what
it's the same as those like weird sumo pullers who like, they use straps to leverage. They're holding the like middle of the bar, so they're getting the most whip out of it.
Yeah, but I still see that as like, if you tried to take that to the extreme, you would fall over. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So like those people have just like really long arms, or just built weird as well. But
deadlift specialists.
But the bench press you can like you said, leverage or just take advantage of, because there isn't a balance factor to it. It's just really like jamming yourself in a position. And also from another point of view on that, the lift, and it's hard to say this with a definitive thing because people will have arguments, but like it's the one where you can just be jacked as fuck, and like, I'm not saying that technique won't matter for those people, it still does, but you can just kind of like get away with just being huge. Like you can go down to World's Gym down the road and there'll be some kid who's some bodybuilder, who's just like super jacked, and they'll be like repping out really good reps on bench press. Rarely see that. Well, actually, a little bit more these days than 10 years ago, but like rarely do you see like a dude just ripping heavy ass deadlifts who's like hasn't specifically trained for powerlifting at Worlds or whatever. It's, I don't know, that there could be a few reasons behind that, but there's the one where you've got a bench there. There's less balance issues needed when it comes to technique, and as long as you have a generally kind of sound technique too on the bench press, you can just muscle your way to it.
Yes, I think that's the big thing, is like people can muscle their way through it a lot. Yeah. Just to see it at EMF all the time.
If you got fucking huge arms,
dudes who could not squat or deadlift to save themselves, and they're sitting there repping out 3 plates on the bench like it was nothing, and you're like, this doesn't make sense to me. But then it does, because it's like, well, they can just muscle their way through it. It's easy for them. Yeah,
powerlifters aren't known for having great mobility. It's a sport where
I'm pretty mobile.
The mobility suits the sport, as in like we don't have to move a whole lot. Guess what? We don't. And we get really good in those ranges, and maybe not so great outside those ranges, whether that's a good or bad thing, whatever, who cares? Arguments on both sides that are good. But bench press specialists are the most jacked up dudes because they're literally just like, just moving through this little range here. Got fucking huge arms, huge delts. That they don't move or whatever, but it's like you get away with it.
Yeah, almost like a bench shirt.
And
Yeah.
They're just so locked up. It's just like things just don't move. Yeah, which is powerlifting to a degree, but when you cut out 2 of the lifts,
and it's just bench.
Yeah, those guys are fucking crazy. Jason Semler, shout out to Jason. I love him. But when I first moved to the Gold Coast, I trained with Jason. At the time, the bench best presser in Australia. Still, I think he's number 2, but in that class. But he would come in and just I only ever saw him do bench. But then I was like, no, surely he does other stuff. He just does it at other gyms. And then so I asked him, well, what do you do? Like, what's your split? What's your routine? What's the secret, bro? Tell me. And he was like, all right, I do chest day, which was his bench day, but he just did heaps of like flies and a bro bench.
Yeah.
Shoulder day.
Yep.
Just shoulders. So I guess, like bro shoulder, shoulder press, shoulder raises in all directions, that sort of stuff. Arm day. So biceps, triceps, just, bulk sets them. And then what you think I'm about to say is like back day or leg day. No.
Bench.
Back to chest day. And so I'm not saying that that's the way to go. And shout out Jason because I do generally love him. But
if you want to be the ultimate bro, that's the ultimate bro split.
It is the ultimate bro split. It's the ultimate bench split. Apparently,
you can't see your back, so why bother training it?
Who needs it?
Fucking not him, apparently.
No, don't need to row onto a bench press. Slightly not true, but kinda. But yeah, I mean, like it shows that if you just get gigantic arms, shoulders, chest, that you can get a long way.
Yeah, I like that. Maybe that's my secret. I don't have a very big chest or arms.
Yeah, well, yeah. Typically, if that's the case, you're probably not going to be best bench presser. That's what we're saying
bench
here.
Presser, no. My bench only went up when I worked out how to contortion myself more.
Hey, same. That's what we're doing. That's what we're all about.
Secret.
Hey, that's the end of the episode.
All right, wrap it up there. There's your answer.
Before we actually get into a couple of these other like quote unquote issues and stuff like that, I just want to bring it back a little bit to where we usually start the episode, but we kind of just jumped straight in there, got ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we are actually Nexus. Welcome.
Yeah.
If you were confused as to what podcast this is.
But just talking, I wanted to do a bit of a catch up as we do. We've had a few episodes where we've had guests. We've had a few episodes where we've kind of not bothered with the catch up. And I thought, let's chuck that in. And although this comes out in a couple of weeks, so it might seem like we're, I don't know exactly when this will come out, but in the weekend just gone, we did have GPC States, in which we had Keita jump into and Honza, Big Hans Jones jump in. So they had 2 competitors in that. Keita was on a bit of a redemption arc coming out of Pro Raw. At Pro Raw, had a technical failure on her bench press and ended up bombing out of the competition. So technically didn't total. She missed a press call not once but twice on the bench and fucked it up royally at Pro Raw, which I'm sure she would admit. But was still very strong. Yeah, she missed. Yeah, so she missed it on the first one. Came out on the second one, just flustered as like what the hell is kind of going on moment, and just
missed the press.
Fucked it on the second one. Just kind of like forgot to press, and then on the third one missed the press call again. But moved very easily. So we continued on at Pro Raw and did her deadlift, and she ended up deadlifting quite well and put together like what would have been a winning and a very good total, but obviously not an official total because she bombed the bench press. So this was a little bit of a redemption arc on that, and also a setting up for comps later in the year that she needed a qualification total for. She had a great day. She went 8 from 8. I tried to bargain her down to not taking her third squat or deadlift, but I only managed to bargain her to not taking a third squat.
Compromises.
Yeah, I'll take that. She has had a little niggly adductor, so I just wanted to play it safe. And I can't even blame. The thing is, I can't blame her because I've done it before as well, where I've jumped into many years ago now, like 2016, 17, I would do states, and the states was Queensland States used to be the weekend after Pro Raw, and I would jump into that as a GPC comp to qualify for GPC Nats, which was a few months later. And I always went in with the intent, like, I've just competed at Pro Raw. I'd just get my total, and then I would get there and I'd be like, let's fucking go.
Send it.
Yeah, it was hard not to. Mickey used to get up me, and now I know how she feels. But we wanted to avoid that niggly duck, but she squatted really well, skipped the third to be safe, bench press, send it, hit a small PB on that. It's been a few years for a bench press PB for her due to a couple of issues. So nice to finally get that ticked off.
Got her press commands.
That little one off the back. Yeah, and it was up in weight. And then the deadlift came together too, and got a nice little PB on the deadlift as well.
Fuck yeah.
And put up what is officially, because I looked it up on Open Powerlifting just a second ago, the seventh best all time ever anywhere in the world total at 82 in the 82.5 kilo class for women.
Fuck.
So
sick.
she's number 7 in the world ever in that weight class. With what I would say is a very comfortable day. So very exciting for heading into the end of the year, and she's got a few comps kind of on the agenda that we have to think about, but really excited for that.
Yeah, sick.
And then Hans, I'll let you tell for him, but she went 8 from 8.
Hans fucking did probably one of the best comps he's ever done in terms of overall performance. 9 for 9.
Love that.
Fucking cut. In the time in which I've started coaching him, he's gone from 127 kilos to 99.7.
Big boy. Yeah.
Nearly 30 kilo total loss. And
body weight loss,
body weight loss. And for him to, not total loss. We're not going backwards here.
Yeah, total body weight. Yeah.
Total body weight. For him to rock up after a bit of a dicey water cut where he fell out of the bathtub. For him to rock
next time, see, this is why I like the sauna. I don't get it. Hans told me, he's like, I prefer the bath. Nah, I don't know. But for people listening, which one do you prefer if you've ever done it? Both of them suck, so there's no good option.
I don't like the sauna.
But I prefer the sauna because it's just like, I'm just sitting there. Like, both of them are uncomfortable, but like in the sauna, I'm just sitting there. You're sweating, it sucks, but like
in a bath, you can lay down.
Yeah, but you're like nearly fucking drowning because like you're trying to like cover your whole body in the hot water, so like it's just your mouth or your nose, just your face just sticking out of the water.
I would just wear my CPAP.
It's a little bit dangerous in the bath. I don't think
that
I
is
recommend
true.
that.
Yeah, don't do that.
That would look cool.
But
I don't know. I just feel like claustrophobic in there, and it's like uncomfortable already, and then you almost fucking feel like you're drowning as well. And then you do what Hans did and go from like lying down for whatever it is, 10 minutes at a time, you're spending in there, 15 minutes, to getting up quickly, and then fucking
blood pressure plummet.
Yeah. Head spinnies and face plants on the ground or whatever.
It happens when you're trying to do what he did, and I mean, didn't affect him at all on the day. Said 9 for 9. Massive day, like really good performance. Fortunately, you and Mickey were up there handling him, and he, as you said, did some of the best squats he's ever done. Everything just looked
It's a good lesson.
Yeah, like he came second. He was vying for first. He came second, so he's still pretty fucking happy. It was a good day, good competition.
He's a pretty hype lifter. Loves to get a bit of
a yell.
Get going. Yep. I think this comp he was probably the most controlled, collected. I wouldn't say calm because he's you can tell that internal kind of like fire is there, but just controlling it better.
I think that was something we'd been working on with, especially fortunately I've been able to catch majority of his squats for the back end. And one thing we've been working on with him is it's all well and good to get hyped before it, but as soon as you're under that bar, it's like you flick that switch. And you're on. You're focused. Like he had a job to do, and he did it. He did it really bloody well. I was stoked with his outcome. And
what's next for him?
Well, originally he was going to be looking at Zero Pro. I mean, he's got the dots for it now, but it's just a matter of us or Valhalla or battling Valhalla again.
Yeah, cool.
And seeing Pro Raw next year.
Yeah.
So got to work all that out. I think his next thing he's actually doing is the Gold Coast Marathon.
Wow, what a
10K.
Hey, one boy. Yeah.
Run club boy.
For people that, so he started off, I think he did, well, he was doing the conditioning classes here, which involve a very, very small amount of running, like minimal. And it's just like shuttle runs. It's certainly not like a kilometer. And then I think he did that. And then Joey,
started running.
Joey, yeah, but she didn't run. She wasn't doing run. I think she ran around the block here, which isn't far. What is it, a kilometer?
Kilometer from door to door.
And then, but she made the mistake of saying like, I did it in X amount of time. And then Hans straight away was just like, well, fuck, I can do better than that. And then so it's just become a game that's absolutely snowballed into apparently a marathon that I'm just finding about.
Yeah, Frank's going to go do the Gold Coast 10K.
Yeah, okay.
So we've got to work that one out.
Well, not a marathon. Yeah, 10K.
Nah, just the 10K. Still.
Yeah.
Everyone's in a run club at the moment, so.
10K. Yeah.
Not me.
Not anytime soon. Yeah, and then on us front, personally, I feel like my lifting training momentum is kicking off. I don't know, I've been really loving the last couple of weeks. The last couple of weeks of training in particular. Just going hard, finding my rhythm. Wasn't meant to bring back in deadlifts just yet, but like things were just feeling right. Some deadlifts going around in the gym, and I hit some, and they feel good. So, not that I'm like
keeping them pretty conservative though.
Oh, a couple of sets, and not to screw with the overall program, and trying to get some squatting in. My knees are definitely a lot better. Went and had my initial appointment with the sports doc on that. And he's pretty confident about it. He was like, based off the MRI, your ligaments, tendons, everything, aren't inflamed and they're all fine. He was actually very happy. He was like, fuck, you're doing pretty well, actually, on that front. And then, but he said, low-level cartilage wear, but a lot of low-level cartilage wear. And so, which is leading to some fluid in the joint, which is causing the pain, the inflammation that's pissing things off and not allowing me to squat without pain. So, but I've been really focused on the rehab. Like on the supplement episode, we discussed like the collagen and taking a lot of that stuff and doing all I can pretty much for it. And still can't squat the way that I want consistently, but like I would say another half a step forward towards that. And then in a few weeks' time, I'll be getting my there's a couple of injections in my knee, which should kind of give the cartilage an extra little bit of buffer and take away that fluid, which should take away
the pain.
But yeah, it's not like a surgery. It's not like something's broken, which is really positive in a way.
It's a good positive. Yeah. It's a positive, but it's a step forward, which is all that matters, really.
Yeah, and then because from there, it's not like, hey, to do this injection, gone. Like it's caused like obviously a little bit of atrophy in that leg comparatively to the other leg, and it's also caused a little bit of downstream and upstream issues, as in like you get other muscles kicking in to do it, like
taking effect.
Yeah, and since the knee can't travel as much, like other things that are a little bit doing extra stuff like that I need to kind of quote unquote like repattern. Once that pain isn't there, I can't just go back and start squatting perfectly, I'm sure. So yeah, that's what I got to look forward to. And then with that bit of training momentum has come a bit of diet momentum as well. So actually weighing stuff out and sticking to a proper diet again. I'm very, very light at the moment, very lighter than I want to be. But it is kind of one of those, step forward for many, one step back for the many steps forward kind of approach to it that I know that needs to happen. So, hopefully it all hits at once and the knee is good, this diet momentum and everything happens, and then kind of it all comes together in a few months' time and we can really start pushing things.
Yeah.
For you, I know that you've been just getting back into some heavies.
Yeah,
because you're doing like RDL, like you weren't even deadlifting at one point, just doing like RDLs, heavy RDLs. But yeah,
I think it was like from November to mid-April, I didn't deadlift. So from the time I put my last heavy deadlift down at comp, to mid-April, I didn't touch a single deadlift.
And you
was still
were
doing
front squatting too?
RDLs. Yeah, I went through a phase of front squatting, which we discussed. Was doing RDLs, and then I transitioned from front squats to tempo SSB, which I'd been pushing. Then I had the introduction of some low bar speedy boy reps. Started off at doubles, and I think I started at 170. And this last week I did 215 pretty conservatively.
Speed.
So, yeah, speedy boy focus still. SSB.
Well, everything's speed. This is the counter argument to speed work that raw powerlifting coaches will put up is that it's kind of in the wording more than anything, and it doesn't fucking matter. But like speed work is like all your work.
Yeah,
as in like go as fast as you can, even if that might be slow, but it's like as fast as you can. So then you adjust the intensity, the weight, the load to make it as fucking fast as you want.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess for me it was just like
it's an interesting concept.
I think if didn't have the focus of speed, I would have just loaded it fairly heavy straight off the bat. And then like not really given a fuck and maybe not made the progress I've made with positioning and just allowing myself to actually get into a good position. I'm doing the most squat volume I've ever done in my life.
What is it?
15 sets a week, 14 sets a week.
What's that? Yeah, that's obviously
that's split between SSB and low bar.
Yep.
And then obviously all my leg accessories and stuff. And I got
yep.
Daddy's added back 2 weeks ago. Barbell deadlifts, hook boy PBs 2 weeks in a row now. All-time volume PB yesterday.
Yep.
Which is nice. Thumbs, all the time spent on the stiff bar.
Stepping back.
Is coming back in very, very quickly. So to be 2 weeks back into deadlifts and hit all-time volume PB, I was pretty bloody happy at like 15, 16 kilos lighter. So, yeah, it's all coming up Millhouse.
Is your weight coming back up?
Sitting around 103 average. Maintaining at the moment. So my maintenance is like 5.2K.
I'm still just heavier than you.
Which is disgusting. Yeah, I think I eat more than you, though.
Get up to 110. Yeah, well, I'm going down, you're going up.
Slowly building towards... I'll compete at the end of the year probably around 108.
Yeah.
Conservatively. Which, if I can...
We'll intercept at one point.
If I can compete around 108, which is what I weighed the last time I did compete in the 110s, I'd be very interested to see how far along the progresses.
The body comp.
The body comp as well is going to be a massive one for me. The body comp, but also just the strength, because at the moment I'm hitting numbers. So I've been above 106 for basically as long as I've been involved in powerlifting. Like my first ever comp I did, I was 109, then 110, then 108, then sort of progressed up to the 115. So the numbers that I'm hitting at the moment, I've never even come close to at this body weight.
Yep.
So for me, I'm already miles ahead of where I was, which I'm stoked on. Which just goes to show play the long game, and it's paying off. And
I was saying that to Callum this morning.
So far away from comp that I'm fucking excited.
One of our members here, Callum, this morning, has gone through a big weight loss phase, and it's kind of what I said to him. It's because his progression, as in terms of numbers on the bar, doesn't seem obscenely fast, and it can fuck with your head a little bit. And I was like, you have to remember, you're like a good, 10, 20, kilos, like moving down in that direction relatively rapidly. So each little gain that you get is actually a lot of gain in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
And it can be fucking hard because like your head can play tricks on you. You're like, oh, I'm weak I'm small.
That's definitely where my head was at too, because I'm having a lot of memories pop up from around 12 months ago, as Facebook and Instagram like to do, 12 and 24 months ago and stuff. And it's like, this time last year I was doing 160 for triples. And then I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, but I was 16 kilos heavier.
Yeah.
I'm like 16 kilos can make it. And at the moment I'm like, what did I do the other day?
On bench press?
140 triples. So I'm not too far behind where I was, and I've never ever hit 140 at this body weight. So I'm like, I'm taking everything as like body weight PBs in my head to just give myself that the joy, because otherwise I'd just look at it and be like, oh, I've hit these numbers before. It's shit.
Yeah, it's really, really easy to fall into that. Super easy.
Whereas daddies are just PB, so it's like, fuck, this is sick.
I feel like when there are other variables, significant variables at play like body weight, and to that degree, you kind of have to just trust in, just kind of zoom out and look at the big picture and try and just trust in that your hard work is going to do something for you.
Yes.
And that the long-term plan is there. If there's no plan, then yeah, fuck, like, what are we doing? But I try and like just focus on the hard work and just getting,
Well, that's it. Trusting the
the-
process is a big one. It can be hard. Like even as a coach myself, who says this to my clients, it's like, trust the process. There is light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. It can be hard when you're stuck in the thick of it.
Oh shit, yeah.
And that's why I just sort of had to reframe my mind from being like, oh, I've done this before to I've never done this at this weight. Like I've only ever done it 10, 15 kilos heavier.
Yeah, try and look for the positives.
Just, in itself is like massive. And I know every other lift that I'm doing, like across all accessories and stuff, is progressing and pushing up, and I feel good. Yeah.
Health metrics are good, as you've said in previous.
Health metrics are phenomenal at the moment.
Love that.
On bloods and just daily checks and shit. So like everything is good. Body comp is still maintaining the exact same as what I looked at the end of my cut. And I'm 2 kilos up roughly.
Yeah.
So can't complain.
Did you get a like DEXA scan or anything like that?
Nah, never bothered with it.
Yeah.
I used to, like way back in the day, I used to use the in-body scans because when I was at Jets, we had one.
Yeah, of course, if it's there.
But I knew how to manipulate it, so it was like I was cheating myself anyway.
Yeah. I used to do DEXA scans before every single pro raw that I did. So on a literally yearly basis, like fuck all. But like on a yearly basis in the peak week of pro raw, so the same sort of all-round circumstances in terms of typically similar diet, similar level of like focus. So like, not heaps of shit and drinking, like similar training, like lots of similar stuff. So as close to consistent as I could be, because like you said, if your hydration's vastly different and your calories are vastly different, it can kind of fuck with those measurements a lot. But I did that as a yearly metric, and it was cool to watch, like, muscle mass or fat mass and where is it and that sort of stuff. That was cool.
I used to like all that stuff, and I used to be like heavily into it and encourage people to do it. I still think they're great. I think they have a fucking place for sure. Like they're a really good tool to use. I just didn't personally use it. I just
it's also another cost. It's another.
I just use my progress pictures I take weekly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, realistically speaking, like at the moment, I guess for me, more so than probably ever since I started powerlifting, I'm the most consistent I've ever been with food, hydration, training, steps, everything.
Watch out.
Is just consistent. So for me, I'm like, if it reflects upon how it is with everything else, like metrics,
trying to stay ahead of the young guns,
body weight, I have to. There's too many of the fuckers coming through, and I'm like, fuck, you're all strong.
These 17-year-olds.
Tobias said in a 215 triple the other day, when that's his current comp best, like a month ago.
Yeah, you're like, good job, man. Yeah.
And I came in and I was only doing 215 for a double. I was like, this sucks.
Man, he's a good lifter. I'm excited. Some of the young guns in here, absolutely fucking hectic lifting.
Yes.
But yeah, let's go back to bench a little bit.
There is a topic for today.
That's all right. Feel like we can nail it pretty quick. But yeah, a lot of the lift technique influences are a lot to do with balance on the squat and deadlift. Like I said, not so much on the bench. You're locking yourself in a position. You're really taking advantage of the stability of the bench press being there and laying on it, that you can manipulate yourself and really like arch and take advantage of that and pin your shoulder blades back when realistically when you do any other press in real life and you throw a punch or you throw a ball or you I don't know, do anything like that, your scaps they're meant to move.
Yeah, you don't want them pinned back, that's for sure.
Yeah, which is helps us on the bench press, but it can also lead to fucky shoulders if you don't learn to
else.
if you just continuously do that and only do that in everything. So that was one of my issues or whatever. Like a lot of bench press, you can get away with like a lot of work load over a week. It's not uncommon to hear people hitting 15 plus kind of bench sets a week when their shoulders are happy and they as long as they're like somewhat balancing it out. But what slows people long term for me is just their shoulders stop moving. They and they start to get like anterior delt pain or like sort of like bicep-y sort of pain, rotator cuff. Like people will say like, my physio, infraspinatus, blah, 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 all this stuff. And without addressing those things individually, I think as a in a general sense, we can say it's typically due to only doing this. Like you see, you know who the people I'm talking about, and don't get me wrong, I've been there too. But bench press, shoulders back and down, arch the back, strong, good. What's my next exercise? Dumbbell press, shoulders back and down, arch my back, good. Yeah, a bit more range.
Do some rowing, then they go
And
shoulders back and down.
Shoulders back and down, and it's not their fault. Sometimes this industry will push you into a like Instagram-y sort of world. We'll say a lot of like, shoulder stability. If you let your shoulders move too much, they're going to fucking explode and your arm's going to fall off. Which is just not, like I said, when you start to think about other sports and throwing and just moving in general, like your shoulders are meant to move.
Yes.
Like the whole stability thing can get a little bit taken to the absolute nth degree. Like things like there's a time and a place for these sayings, and they're not 100% wrong in all situations, but I just feel like it's the whole, shooting a cannon out of a canoe is sort of like the analogy people use when they're like, if your shoulders are just floating around in a bench press, then it's like shooting a cannon out of a canoe. And it's like they're saying that, like, there's a lot of force on an unstable thing, but it's like, well, your shoulders are just a lot of movement. They're meant to be kind of like moving around. So like we can fall into that narrative a little bit too hard and end up just fucking never moving them. And then even you've got this a little bit lately, the little anterior pain from your shoulders having to, like, not being able to rotate in the way they should. So they start like tipping and doing things to compensate to get into positions that you want to get into.
So anteriorly rotated.
Yeah, if you're trying to do an overhead press and your shoulder blades can't go into the position they need to facilitate your arms to go overhead, your body will find a way to make it fucking happen. Just like we discussed in squats and that, if you're trying to get to depth and have the ability to get there, your body will round something else or move something else to make that happen, and it can often lead to undesirable kind of outcomes. So if you're trying to do an overhead press, and if anybody's ever done it and then got that pinchiness at the front of the shoulder or that bicep sort of weird pain up the top, that's what it's from. Like your shoulders just aren't going there, and then things are moving in ways they need to. And there's a lot of intersecting tendons, muscles, bones that are fucking in that little tiny space in your shoulder. And when you start getting jammed up in there, like that's where that pinchy thing comes from. And that's not advice. That's very general. If anybody takes any advice from that, really the overarching advice there is move your shoulders.
Yeah.
So when you come to accessories, we love, I was just doing them just before, like some landmine pressing, done them for years. Kind of went away from it a little bit during the hypertrophy, when my brain went more in the hypertrophy realm, because it doesn't make a huge amount of sense in a hypertrophy, because like if you think about just the arc of it and whatnot, the strength curve of it. But I think it's still a great exercise for driving upward rotation, but letting your shoulders move during rows and pull downs and all this different stuff, and learning to control different ranges and such is what keeps your shoulders healthy over a longer period of time, and allows you to do the high volumes of bench press, which allows you to get strong on bench press or skilled in that pattern.
Yeah. Well, I even know myself, like when I first sort of started getting into this more strengthy realm, I was someone who bit into the narrative of, you have to do a 1-to-1 push-pull ratio of vertical and horizontal. So it was like every single
vertical and horizontal.
Yeah. So every single horizontal press had to be matched with horizontal pull. Every single vertical press had a pull.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where it was like I still had shoulder pain. Like I was actually probably worse because every time I was doing a row movement of any kind, whether it was horizontal or vertical, I was still pulling my scaps back and down. Every time I did a press, it was pulling my scaps back and down. So it was like just doubling down on retraction and depression instead of like thinking about it from the perspective of, okay, well, I want my scaps to move when I row. It was no, scaps cannot move.
Yeah, it's a very...
Which was just what was kind of taught to me at the time. And
it's
then I was
kind of
like,
it's not a bad general rule when I think about it. Like,
it's not, but it's been, I think it's more
misunderstood.
It's been misunderstood, but I think it's also been like misinterpreted by people to the fact, like, I misinterpreted the fact that like every time I press, my shoulders have to be pulled back and down. And every time I row, my shoulders have to be pulled back and down, which is not necessarily the case. Like as you just said, like with the landmine pressing,
Yeah.
like we want to kind of get that upward rotation. Like when we're doing things like if we're trying to do some form of reaching floor press or bench press or something like that, like we want to get the scaps moving.
Yeah, it's more of like a like obviously we can't speak like this at people and at clients because I can't expect everybody to have an in-depth knowledge of anatomy. But like it's more of a like, hey, your scaps, you should be trying to do all of the things that the scaps can do. You should probably try and do to some degree. So whether it's elevate and depress and protract and retract and upwardly and downwardly rotate and moving all around and trying to build strength in all those directions and keep those ranges open. That's kind of what we should be doing. But yeah, when you pull that back to, yeah, obviously you can't say that, and that doesn't make a very sexy Instagram post.
No.
But yeah, when you strip that back and you start saying like push-pull ratios, although you kind of, I get that's what you're kind of trying to say, but it just doesn't really, yeah, when we're teaching the pushes as in a retracted position, and then we're teaching the rows in a retracted position, we're teaching the pull downs in a retracted position, we're doing our overhead presses with a back and down and just kind of doing the half reps things.
Yep.
Sure, you might be getting different muscles in there still. I'm not saying they're exactly the same, but from your scapula's sort of perspective and your rib cage's perspective underneath that, they're the same.
Yes. Yeah, I guess the fact that was just me probably just misinterpreting what I was actually trying to.
Yeah, but it's an industry thing for sure.
Get at. But yeah, people can definitely misinterpret that. And I think it's just something that like there's so many different ways. Like you said yourself at the very start that like with squat and deadlift, it's fairly like it's a balance thing a majority of the time. A lot of the issues stem from balance. Whereas when we're looking at it from the bench press, like balance doesn't necessarily come into play. But I'd find there are more things coming into play. Like we've got our legs, we've got what our back is doing, we've got what our chest is doing, we've got what our arms are doing.
We're saying it's a
absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah. I think I would almost sometimes say to people that it's actually technically a little bit harder because there's a few different pieces moving on. Whereas like squat, if you can teach someone to find their midfoot, how to brace effectively, keep it tight upper back,
it solves most issues.
Yeah, ticking a few boxes. With bench, it's like.
Yeah, it's almost like because there isn't the balancing and we've got this bench press to lock ourselves down on, you think it would make it easier, but it really just opens up avenues for us to make it, to get tighter and
more fuckery.
We can really jam ourselves in there, but there's a lot going on. When you see somebody, you know, it's like if I watch the fucking Formula One racing, I'm just like, oh yeah, he's just fucking putting his foot down the accelerator, turning the wheel. Like they make it, professionals make people the shit look easy. Like when you look at a really, really good bench presser, like his arms are moving. He's just like lowering down to his chest. He's pushing back up. But yeah, there's leg drive from the legs perspective. He's pushing really hard into the ground and making sure that his legs and hips are as stable as, and everything up the chain is a bit more stable, not moving around. He's flaring the rib cage to try and cut down range of motion, and that's a little bit of a skill. There's the whole, even though we just said not. You know, you don't want to always backing down on a bench press. You want to kind of be backing down to a degree. Holding that whilst going to the pressing, like I said, you don't really do that in other aspects of life, so that can be fucking weird. Like just when you first do it, if you pull your shoulders back into a row and then try and push your arms forward, obviously your shoulders want to follow that. They want to work forward together because that's how the body works. But in a bench press, it's fucking weird because you've got trying to hold back and then push forward. And it's like, what?
Yeah, it's something that's very interesting to teach new people where I'm like, it's a very common thing I see with newer people to benching where they will do exactly what wants to do. They'll press and they protract and then they lose all arch, lose all chest. And you're like, I don't want you to do that. Yeah. I actually want you to like not fully lock out.
I want you to cheat.
Yeah, you're kind of going to like, if we're doing reps, you're kind of
you're locking out. You're locking your elbows out.
You lock the elbows, but I don't want you. I always, depending upon who it is and where they're at within their training, generally speaking, like if you tell someone don't lock out, they'll go to where their elbows lock out, but to them locking out is that press. Is that like little push at the end where that sort of loses their tension. So
for me, the most of the cueing comes from the height. Height.
Yeah, trying to teach someone how to get their chest up.
Don't lose height. As soon as you protract and your shoulders come around, then your chest is going to drop. Like as in like relative motion of your scaps around your body is rib cage retraction, is the rib cage moving backwards as well. We don't want that. We want to keep this up and keep our shoulders back whilst pressing. It is a bit of a head fuck. Absolutely. and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you first start. But yeah, there's that going on. There's the breathing. There's just and since you are jammed up in a little tight ball and you've got all of your limbs pushing and jamming yourself tighter and tighter and tighter, and then your breath on top of that, it's not comfortable. Super uncomfortable, and that can be a bit unnerving at first as well. You're just like, oh fuck, man, just like, geez, really not loving being here.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's one thing too, is, and I know you've done an Instagram post on this with relation to like, you shouldn't be comfortable.
Yeah.
But it also shouldn't be unbearable.
Oh, it shouldn't be like, oh man, my disc is about to fucking.
Yeah. And I think some people would like there's obviously the difference between active and passive tension. And some people, when they first start, they tend to lean more towards the passive tension because they don't understand what getting tight feels like. So they just wedge themselves as tight as they possibly can to the point where it's almost unbearable. And they can't physically hold themselves in that position.
Yeah. Most people either do one or the other, whereas the answer is kind of in the middle. As in, like, when Josh says passive tension, he's saying, like, if you just kind of put your feet under you as much as you can and kind of jam yourself up in a little ball without kind of muscular tension, you will still feel tight.
Oh, you'll be tight. Yeah, it's going to hurt.
Because you're at end range. And then, on the other hand, if you just lay down on the bench press all loose and then try and squeeze your muscles, you'll also be kind of tight. Whereas you combine the best of both of those worlds and kind of like bring your feet under you and arch up as much as you can, but still in a position where you can exert force into the ground with your legs and squeeze your back and all that stuff. You find the good mix of both of those, which sounds really complex, but it's honestly not. It's just not being extremes. That's when you'll feel real tightness. And, as much as it's not good advice to anybody, like a lot of people, when I see somebody who's not a great bench presser, like if they can just find more tightness or in their setup, however you want to convey that message, it'll just, that's often a solution. I remember in my first comp that I ever did, I was bench pressing. It was a little bit wobbly if I go back and find the video, but I just happened to be on that states that some of the best bench pressers in Australia were there, and then their advice to me was like, get tighter. And maybe that wasn't good advice because it's like telling somebody to eat less when they're, to lose weight. It's just okay, true, but like many fucking things missing from that statement. How?
Yeah.
So it's.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I've been working on in particular with one of my clients recently. Is he was someone who very much had feet as far back as possible, jam himself up as tight as he can get. And he was almost incredibly unstable as the bar was coming down, like rocking from side to side. Yeah. So although he was tight,
felt tight.
He was very unstable. Mm-hmm. And we have been working on almost a little bit more of like a flatter foot approach with him creating and holding that tension. And he says himself that he feels just as tight as he did previously, but doesn't shake at all anymore.
Yeah,
he's incredibly stable.
Yeah. A bit more of a balance between
the two. He's like got that really nice balance now where like he's stable and with stability comes force. And he's like, oh, my bench is easier.
Thank you for listening to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. Be sure to jump on our website to find details on everything mentioned in the podcast today, plus information on our coaching, mentoring, and gyms based in the Gold Coast and Townsville. Make sure you follow us on our Instagram for any updates on what we are currently doing, and we'll see you all in the next episode.